Welcome in to this signing day edition of my new Texas Athletics mini series here on the Raw Prospect Podcast YouTube channel. I'm Michael Ween, co-host of the actual Raw Prospect Podcast with Emmy Nixon. And today, on our first episode, we will be discussing what was a great 2022 recruiting cycle for Texas football. These videos, these podcasts that I will do likely every week from here on out will feature every sport from football news on and off the field to basketball on and off the court to, of course, baseball, which is upcoming, and other sports as well. But those will be the main three featured sports that we will talk about here on this channel in this stream that we will do, or I will do once a week, and we'll have some different guests along the way. But let's just get straight to the chase. If you don't follow recruiting, well, this might be a great surprise to you. But today, to finish off what is a top 5 national recruiting class after a 5-7 season for Texas football, Texas and Steve Sarkisian and Kyle Flood, the new offensive line coach who we brought over with him from Alabama on the staff, great recruiters. They landed the number 1 overall rated interior offensive lineman in the country, ranked number 12 overall by On3 consensus rankings, Devin Campbell from the Dallas Metroplex Bowie High School area. Man, go watch this guy's highlights. I think Devin Campbell, is a program changer for this Texas team. When you think about college football, and in particular, when you think about the best teams in college football, the perennial contenders in college football, the Georgias of the world, the Alabamas of the world, even the Michigans of the world, the elite teams in college football. Oklahoma has had great offensive lines for years on years on years now. The great programs in college football. How do you win championships in college football? You have to be great in the trenches, on the offensive line and on the defensive line. And that's exactly where Texas exceeded expectations in this recruiting class. 7 offensive linemen signed, 3 of which are all within 24/7's top 100 rankings. 5-star offensive lineman Devin Campbell, who I'm going to talk in more depth here in a little bit. 5-star offensive tackle, who they signed back in December, and Kelvin Banks, who we'll also talk a little bit about on this podcast. And then Neto Umoazulu, hard last name to pronounce, another 4-star interior offensive lineman, along with others. This offensive line class, arguably the best offensive line class in Texas football history, or at least in the modern era. Man, this could be program changing for Texas, because in order to compete with the big dogs, when you move over to the SEC, in order to compete with the Floridas, the Georgias, the Alabamas, you have to be great up front. To be able to move the ball against some of these SEC elite defenses. And on the other side of the ball as well. You got to be able to get after the passer, have elite pass rushers, and have guys that can plug up the middle and stop the run on a consistent basis. And that's what Texas, as we know, offensive line was a weak spot on this past year's team. Defensive line, not as much, but both sides of the ball were weak spots. They were weak up front. In this recruiting class, we saw Steve Sarkisian and his staff, they clearly set out to fix this issue. And they're off to a really good start. Devin Campbell, the number one interior offensive lineman in the country, the third best prospect in the huge state of Texas, and the number 12 overall prospect in the entire country. One of the best offensive line recruits in the entire country. Comes home, and he will spend his college football career at Texas. And he could be the centerpiece, along with Kelvin Banks, to what could be the start of a great offensive line for Texas football. And that's really encouraging when you think about the pieces that Texas now has on the offensive side of the football going into next year. One of their first signees, early December, Brennan Thompson, a 4-star wide receiver, really athletic. Okay, they bring in a guy like Isaiah Neyor. 2 years left of eligibility. Really athletic, can stretch the field. Will pair well with Xavier Worthy. Through the transfer portal from Wyoming. Really athletic, can stretch the field. Okay, and then Jaleel Billingsley, the tight end from Alabama. If you can give Quinn Ewers or Malik Murphy, whoever starts at quarterback, that time to throw, and you can have run maulers up front in the run game that can create even more holes for Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson and even Keelan Robinson, this running back room that Texas already has built. Man, could this offense go to a whole nother level. So I believe this is the first time that Texas has landed 2 5-star offensive linemen in the same class, and both could be special. Now, in order to win in college football, there are 3 things you have to do: recruit, develop, and have a top-notch culture. Texas, they've been able to recruit, maybe not at this high of a level on a consistent basis, but we've seen this before. Top 10, top 5 recruiting classes. Tom Herman did it. Coaches of past like Mac Brown did it again and again and again. But what Texas has lacked has been not only the development aspect, failing to get these guys, these elite talents, and put them in the draft and have those first-round picks that you see Alabama and Georgia, LSU have every single year. Not only have they been missing that aspect, being able to develop these players to reach their fullest potential, but the culture has been the number one issue with Texas football over the past decade or so. And that's why they have failed to return to prominence. Okay, it's not because they lack the talent. It's because of the culture and the missing piece of development. Okay, they've been missing 2 of the 3 ingredients you need to compete for national championships in college football. Trust me. If they can get the culture fixed, which these new generation of guys could help do, the transfer portal, this recruiting class, and even next year's recruiting class, you got to stack them on top of each other. It just can't be one. The culture could be on its way to being fixed, at least for the short term. You slowly build that culture, and this staff can get its footing, this coaching staff can get its footing and develop these guys that they recruited, Texas could be back on the map sooner than you think, nationally. Like competing for college football playoffs is what I'm talking about. But it's not going to happen overnight. You have to stack these types of recruiting classes on top of each other. It's what Alabama's been doing. It's what LSU, for the most part, has been doing. It's what Georgia has been doing. Okay? It's what these elite programs like Ohio State have been doing year after year after year. And the most important thing is building the trenches, both on the offensive line and defensive line. And now you have signed 3 top 100 offensive lineman prospects in the 247 rankings for 2022. Devin Campbell, 5-star offensive lineman from Bowie High School. Super athletic for a guy over 300 pounds. Super powerful in the run game. He is a mauler in the run game. One of the best run blockers and pullers, interior guards that maybe we have ever seen. You watch his highlight tapes, you see him running down the field with the likes of his quarterback and running back in high school, just mauling guys, running them over. He has the size. He has unheard of athleticism. He has power. He has everything you need, all the tools, the strength, everything. Just go watch this guy's highlights. He could be the centerpiece of what could be the start of a rebuild on this offensive line, which was a weak point, one of the weakest points of this team this past season. And that is what you need to compete in the SEC. So overall, a historic class for Texas football, especially coming off a 5-7 season, a season which included a stretch of 6 straight losses, longest since the 1960s. A home loss to one of the worst programs, not only the worst program in the Big 12, but one of the worst programs in college football, Kansas. An embarrassing loss. Other embarrassing losses, the Iowa State game, the Baylor game. I could go on and on. Blowing the lead in the OU game, blowing another lead in the Oklahoma State game. Their culture problems galore. And development has been an issue. But now there are no excuses. This staff got a chance to get its guys in the program. Guys have left. Casey Thompson's gone. Some of these guys have transferred. Now we have a new, fresh generation of Texas football players on the offensive and defensive lines, where this class is built. It's all going to start this spring with the development of these elite prospects. Devin Campbell, Kelvin Banks, Neto Umeozulu. These guys got to be the centerpieces of this next offensive line. And you gotta keep stacking these classes on top of one another. It's very important. But Devin Campbell, man, he plays with attitude. He's got the power. He's got the strength. The footwork and agility to be good in pass protection. Somewhere where he's still working to become better, but he definitely has the ability. You see it on tape. And then he is one of the best, most dominant run-blocking offensive linemen with the versatility to play inside and outside and pull and zone run-blocking schemes, okay, to be elite in those areas. He is elite in the run-blocking department. And when you think about what this Texas offense has built at the skill positions, especially in that running back room, with a special guy like Bijan Robinson spearheading the attack. If this offensive line, with a great coach in Kyle Flood, can figure it out and gel together, it's obviously going to take time. But if that can happen, as I said at the beginning of this, the offense will be elevated to a whole nother level, the likes of which we saw at LSU a couple of years ago, the likes of which we saw at Alabama last year, or the year before this past year, okay, and this past year, okay? It could go to that level when you have guys on the outside like Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Neyor and Brennan Thompson, and even Jordan Whittington, if he stays healthy. Now, that is a big if, but Jordan Whittington, if you have those four guys as your weapons, plus Bijan Robinson, plus Roschon Johnson, plus Keelan Robinson, who's the third running back on this team but could legitimately start for basically most other teams in the Big 12. Okay, that just shows you how talented this running back room is. If this offensive line can gel and be the rock of this Texas offense, both in pass protection and run blocking, man, could we be something scary on the offensive side of the football. But as I said, it all comes back to now development and culture. The culture is going to take more than just this year to fix. Although I do think there will be a better atmosphere around the team, at least this upcoming year. Okay? Development and culture. The two missing ingredients to this Texas football program as of right now. But now you have the requisite talent in the trenches to fix what you mainly needed to fix. And you have what could be a generational prospect at quarterback in Quinn Ewers. The transfer from Ohio State, the 5-star prospect who originally committed to Texas. Okay, they went to Ohio State, got his money, rightfully so. Didn't really get much playing time, of course. Took a couple snaps, transfers back to Texas. Now we have that guy, the highest rated quarterback recruit Texas has seen since Vince Young. And we know how that turned out. Okay, he's got the arm, he's got the athleticism, he's got everything. He's got the mullet, the hair, everything you need to be an elite quarterback if you surround him with a good offensive line, a good foundation in the trenches, Bijan Robinson, and these weapons. I mean, Xavier Worthy, he is special. He might be the best player on this team. And, I mean, it's a team that includes guys like Devin Campbell now and Bijan Robinson and DeMarvion Overshown on the defensive side of the football. I mean, the ceiling is up here for Texas. But this offensive line class could be program changing for Texas football if these kids are developed in the right ways and this culture can get better and be fixed with this new recruiting class and these new players that are coming in and all of the roster turnover that has happened so far this offseason. So a top 5 class after a 5-7 season with all of the aspects and variables that I mentioned earlier, a 6-game losing streak, blowing the lead to OU, blowing the lead to Oklahoma State, losing to Baylor, losing to Iowa State, losing to Kansas at home. And now you bring in Brendan Thompson. You bring in, Isaiah Neyor, really talented wide receiver, long, lengthy, athletic wide receiver that can stretch the field to go along with Xavier Worthy, and a guy in Jaleel Billingsley, a highly recruited tight end from Alabama who can do a little bit of everything. Okay. Along with these running backs, along with Jordan Whittington if he can stay healthy, this offense could be taken to a whole nother level. The likes we haven't seen in a while here at Texas. Now, of course, we don't know what Quinn Ewers will be, or even if he will start or not. That's yet to be seen. I mean, I think he will. But another talented, big-arm guy, Malik Murphy, highly recruited, one of the top 5 quarterback prospects in this year's class, also comes in. And you still have another 4-star guy who has some experience already on the roster in Hudson Card, as long as he doesn't end up transferring. I mean, as long as that quarterback position is solidified with the talent like Quinn Ewers in this offensive line, who will probably have a mix of veteran and young youth talent. If they can gel, Texas will be very dangerous offensively. So, great job by Steve Sarkisian and his staff for being persistent, for not giving up. They could have settled for players the talents a tier below than what they did. But they were persistent, and they set out a goal to go fix these issues. And they're on their way to doing that. Build the wall up front in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And they're off to a great start. So congratulations to Steve Sarkisian and his staff, Kyle Flood, Brennan Marion, the new wide receivers coach from Pittsburgh, who was able to flip Isaiah Neyor after he ended up transferring to Tennessee, flipped him here to Texas. He's able to get, the staff, able to get a guy like Jaleel Billingsley, a veteran in this tight end room, a guy of his talent, in this offensive line class, which, as I said, three offensive linemen in the top 100 of the rankings, something I don't think I've ever seen here at Texas, and 2 5-stars on the offensive line, something I know this Texas program has never seen. So game-changing for this Texas Longhorns team. What a great way to, recover after a 5-7 disappointing season where you didn't even make a bowl game. This is what they needed. Because at the end of the day, it could have easily gone the other way. But it didn't. Credit to their persistence, the resilience of this staff in the recruiting process. So we are going to see how all these players. I'm really excited for the Texas football spring game here coming up. I think April 23rd or April 24th. Just a couple months away until we get our first looks at these players. So of course, it is late here in Austin, Texas. So I'm not going to ramble on too long. But we hit on a little bit of everything. Of course, Devin Campbell, the number 1 overall interior offensive lineman recruit, has all the tools. He's a teddy bear off the field, but he's mean and gritty on the field. one of the hardest hitters in the country, one of the best run blockers that we've seen out of high school. And who knows how long. He's got the feet and the agility, although he's still developing in the pass protection department. He's got the feet and agility to also be elite in that area. He's got the versatility to play inside and outside. He's got the power and the determination to be great in the run game, the athleticism to block downfield. He's got a little bit of everything. And then a guy like Kelvin Banks, another 5-star prospect, great in pass protection, low center of gravity, good hands, just an all-around great prospect to go along with these other 4 stars. Malik Agbo from out of state. And then, of course, Neto Umeozulu. Can't say his last name. Umeozulu, I believe is how you pronounce it. And others. Man, it's an exciting time in the world of Texas football. Something I never thought I would say after the season finished up. Brennan Thompson. Transfers like Quinn Ewers and Isaiah Neyor. Jaleel Billingsley. All in the past month. On the defensive side, Ryan Watts, a guy who can come in and make an impact in this secondary from Ohio State through the transfer portal. Terrence Brooks, highly touted cornerback. Some rate him as a 5-star, some as a 4-star, but he could be really special. Up front, Brian Allen and others to go along with what was already here on the defensive line beforehand. And we can go more into depth into all those players at a later date. But man, what a day, National Signing Day. What a recruiting class, given the circumstances for Texas football. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to our channel. Emmy and I will be doing, of course, more podcasts and giving you guys more content together here in the next couple days and over, of course, the next couple of months. Football season is winding down, but we will have college football offseason coverage. We will have NFL offseason coverage. We will have a little bit of everything, baseball when that starts back up. And I will be back here in a couple of days, back on this channel to talk more Texas athletics every couple of days. So I hope you guys enjoy the content. I hope all Texas fans are excited about this recruiting class. It's something really to look forward to. You're heading into spring, the spring period, the spring practice period, and the spring football period. And yeah, so that's a great way to kick it off with Devin Campbell, the number 1 overall interior offensive lineman, committing to Texas, adding to what is the number 5th ranked overall recruiting class in the country for Texas football. And Steve Sarkisian's first full recruiting class. So hopefully it's program changing. We'll see. And we'll be back, as I said, in a couple days with more content. So until then, be safe, stay healthy, and we will see you soon. I will see you guys soon. So be safe. And for tonight, I'm out. Hook 'em.